we are creating a space and a playing field where people walk in and there are things for them to use and share right away.
I'm going to keep saying this, I think, for every episode. We have a fantastic episode today. This is another person who I have only relatively recently met, and another person who it feels like I've known them my whole life. That was the voice of Holly Cole. And Holly is an amazing, amazing person. Holly is currently the CEO of the Research Ops community, but Holly is so much more. This conversation is one of my favorites because we talk a little bit about some of my favorite things, hair products and New Jersey, some of our shared experiences being in Texas. But we also take some really deep dives and conversations of what it was like growing up and how the experience of being misunderstood or being thought of as different can really affect us. And we talk about the importance of support, finding those communities that we really strive to be in safe spaces so that we feel safe. And so the importance of community and the feeling of pride that we get, the feeling of acceptance and the feeling of being a human as we are in these communities. This is a fantastic conversation, and Holly's just a wonderful, wonderful, rad person. So, again, let's get to it. Please enjoy Holly Cole.
Hello, and welcome to Movie Phone. If you know the name of the movie you'd like to see.
Oh, 777 film. Yes, I remember. I've been looking forward to this conversation for a while because we've only recently met, but I think we can both agree it's about time that we did. And I have a feeling that we're going to talk about a lot of things. But first things first, most importantly, what's your hair product of choice today?
So my hair product of choice today is Dirty, which is usual. I wash my hair at best once a week, and that was even when it was long.
Keep the oils.
Not bleached because it's good for your skin and your hair and all of that. I use preferably got to be powderful, but it's a wax powder.
I'm familiar with got to be.
Well, so they have a product that you sprinkle on your hair that is a powder wax. And that's because my hair has grown out enough that we're moving back into the pompadour phase. So most of my life, I have gone between not so short it stands up all over, which is essentially not a buzz cut, to this kind of severe angled bob that would start like at my occipital bun and then go down to the corner of my chin here. So, and in between those growing out phases, I have a really elaborately tall pompadour. So all of them look good. But now we're getting into the pompadour phase, and that's the powderful phase of products. Yeah.
Okay, because you always have good hair. That when
the best documentaries ever.
Yeah, exactly. And I rush with my own hair, but hair is something that I have conscious thought about, and it is something that comes up and comes up for me.
The really ironic thing is that I do spend a lot of time thinking about my hair and like planning my hair because I bleach my own hair. I have done this and I actually had long hair and it was this white, as you know, for I probably bleached it. I know I bleached it over 20 times during the pandemic and I still had long hair. but I do not spend a lot of time styling my hair or doing it every day.
Yeah.
So thank you for thinking that I have nice hair.
Yeah. Well, my pleasure.
It's the plan.
It, it's, it's true. Um, and I wanted to, get that out first. But this also allows me to like contact Got to Be and say, hey, would you like to advertise with us? I'm joking, of course. Um, uh, there are other things that when we were discussing what we might talk about, there's like a
So
dozen
many
things, and I
things.
was just like, can we
Okay.
just boil this all into um, a nonstop just thread of continuous run-on sentences? But
Yes,
we
I can.
right. Well, I think we both can. Um, we we both have something. I guess it's sort of unusual. It's probably more frequent than uh, I know, but there's not many people have the combination of both living in New Jersey and Texas as like
Mm.
large parts of their background. And but I want to talk about that. But did you grow up in New Jersey?
No, I grew up in Texas and in North Carolina,
Oh, okay, right.
mostly Texas, but it's an interesting combination to think of and then be up here because there is as you know, there's a definite opinion by the rest of the world about Texas.
Yes.
And at Molly Ivins, who was a political pundit and journalist, had a quote, and I'm going to horribly, horribly do it, but it was something about, I dearly love the state of Texas, but I consider that an adult perversion that I only discuss with the consenting adults. And it's that kind of thing. Like I love Texas. There's so many wonderful things about Texas and being from Texas where, people actually smile and say hello to you, complete strangers. But it's also not a great place.
Yes.
The same side of the coin is also not a great place. So, but there's an interesting, like coming up here, there was an interesting relationship between the pride in where people are from. Like people from
Mm,
Texas are very much, um, I'm a Texan first,
yes.
and then I'm an American.
Yes.
I'm from Texas,
Right.
and I'm from New York,
Yeah.
and then I'm from New York City, then
Yeah.
I'm an American. It
Yeah.
is the very similar mindset. It is a very unique way of growing up and a very unique mindset. And that is so similar.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And especially in the New York metropolitan area, it
mm-hmm,
goes by borough. It's like I'm from Staten Island.
mm-hmm.
I'm from the Bronx. Or even getting into Jersey, you're like, I'm from North Jersey.
You're like,
You
I'm from
know?
Central Jersey. That doesn't exist. Do you have a
Right.
Taylor
Like,
ham or pork roll? I'm like,
right.
neither. Oh,
Right. Well, if you're from either North or South Jersey, there is no Central Jersey. It's like, no, you're made up after the fact. There's, zip codes,
Freehold is
yeah,
Central Jersey, and I live in between Freehold and Asbury Park. That is exactly like
I
I'm
know.
just in the middle of nothing there.
Right. Right.
Just
Yeah. For
ugh.
those who don't know, New Jersey, you can drive through the long way of the state in 3 hours. Yeah.
If there's no traffic.
If there's no traffic, which doesn't happen. Yeah, but so anyway, I wasn't sure, but uh, there's a thing about Texas as well that uh, there's a particular language and vernacular that is very Texan. And what's funny is I did not grow up there, but somehow y'all has become a very fundamental part of my language. And now that we've moved to Vermont, everybody's like, are you from the South? And I'm like, no. not at all. I'm from New Jersey. They're like, oh, you're confusing because you say y'all. And I was like, y'all, I know. It's problematic.
Well, that is something that I use as an example to people who are like, "Oh, Texas," ugh. And I'm like, and yet one of the most inclusive words
Yes.
in the modern language came from, well, the South, but mostly Texas.
Mostly Texas.
And yeah, and that's often how I out myself, is just to say, I can bring out my howdy y'all if you want me to, but I tend to keep it kind of tamped down
Right.
hard.
Yeah.
If I'm there for longer than a day or two, it bubbles back up. If I'm in North Carolina for longer than 12 hours, because that's a particular twang. Interestingly enough, Texas and North Carolina are the only two states with five distinct accents.
Oh my gosh. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm. Ah, Texas. Um, when
Mm.
we were chatting about, you do a lot of community work,
Uh-huh.
uh, and uh, have spent a long time doing um, operations work, which is really
Hot.
being the
So
adult,
hot right
being
now.
the it is, yeah, capital OPS is everywhere now. But it's operations work and community work is so fundamentally important. It's always like the adult work, where the
Mm.
children want to play with strategy and whatnot. Where okay, I'm gonna be the adult and keep everybody on track. So we were
Mm-hmm.
chatting about potentially talking about that versus talking about the death industry, uh, finding the divine when we speak,
I know.
and, and living on a bus. And I was like, how can we manage to do all those at once? And I'm not quite sure, but I wonder if there's one place that you
Time
want
is
to
a
start
flat
with.
circle.
Right.
That's how you do all those things at once in a
that's,
lifetime. Time is a
that's
flat
right.
circle.
That's right. So,
Just I want to point out, like, most people who know me, who know of me, know me through the research ops community, and that's obviously a large research community that's out there, but it's not the only large community that I run. Um,
mhm.
but the other one is kind of a private lockdown community, and it is also thousands of people. So it's definitely, and I've had to let go of a couple as the research ops community has gotten larger and larger.
Mm,
Um, but it's definitely something that, I don't know, for better or for worse, that's probably where my calling is finding people that have a commonality and need support in some form or fashion, whether
yeah.
it's workplace information, emotional support. What I'm just really good at gathering people and resources together and keeping it together, keeping those people
Right.
together. Like, my superpower is getting hundreds of people to do stuff for me for free.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, that is sounds like a
Cult leader. What?
20 thread tweet that you could market and sell for thousands of dollars by your 8-step formula
$1 million.
for keeping
Mm-hmm.
people together and they do stuff for free. But that is not your main focus. What is interesting for me is there are thousands of communities, tens
Mm-hmm.
of thousands of communities. There's lots of communities, very few um, places where people gather to be in community. And that's where I think what you do is so fundamentally different is the being in community is about action not being a witness. Being in community with others is a lot of care, a lot of work. And so I'm curious, um, does facilitating or being the operations behind community, does that help you feel in community with others?
No, no, no. So actually doing the stuff in the background doesn't make me particularly feel like I'm in community with people. But it is what needs to be done to create that, and then I go there.
Yeah.
So, and that is, I think, probably the magic there is that, yeah, there's plenty of people who come and are lurking and reading, and you get that anywhere, but we have hundreds to thousands of people who are there every week who are actually there interacting, engaging, supporting each other,
Mm.
providing resources back and forth, and being a community.
Yeah.
Um, and that's not common.
No.
And like I can't let that go, and I can't stop doing what needs to be done to support that.
Mm.
Regardless of whether it's a little bit weird to get a lot of people to do stuff for you for free. I
Right.
will leverage that until I absolutely can't anymore, because I know how much that means to people. I know how much it means to me.
Right, right, and I when you mention that, in no way do I think you are being deceptive or
Mm-mm.
manipulative. What what I know of you, and this work that you do is more around not getting people to do things for free, but um, providing this crucial little uh, linchpin or
Mm-hmm.
connection of like just little nudges or prompts to get people to share, to be respectful, to be in support of, and in return they, it's like
Mm-hmm.
the give and receive uh, uh, flow of benefits is mutual, and you're just there saying like, hey, so and so, you've also done this, right? I imagine there's a lot of you knowing essentially hundreds and thousands of people almost on an individual basis.
I know hundreds of people, and if I don't know them, they might. And I kind of like reach
Yeah.
out. I'm like, so, do you know so and so? And could could we?
Mm, mm-hmm.
What can I do for you? It is a lot of friendly just chat. It's a lot of talking. It's a lot of negotiating.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that is based on we are creating a space and a playing field where people walk in and there are things for them to use and share right away.
Yeah.
And it's like they walk in and they're like, oh, here's this stuff that we can use already. What can I
Yeah.
do? How can I
Yeah. Yep.
help?
Yep.
And that is just, and yeah, that eventually kind of peters out unless there's people who are nudging and saying, oh, wait a minute, you've done some of this. Hey, you come and join this next step and this next step and this next step. And
Right.
it is kind of that networking thing. It it can be a little bit tiring at times, but it very much is. It is creating a community and
Mm.
using that community for their community,
Mm-hmm.
um, and beyond. So
Mm.
I don't know.
I'm interested because I imagine there
I
is
never wanted
part.
to be a leader.
Yeah, so says so many people. Or did you? Is this what you expected? Like, is this what you thought it would be?
No, I used to tell people back in my 20s that I absolutely never, popularity wasn't for me. None of this was something that I wanted, because when you're in charge, when you're a leader, when you find yourself even the leader of a friend group, um, so much more responsibility falls on your shoulder to keep people happy.
Yeah. It's quite exposing as well. Like, everybody now knows who Holly is. And um, I think that's one of the things that we don't talk about when getting into leadership roles is like, if you don't have your own shit sort of sorted out in a way, suddenly being responsible and accountable and being like all eyes or voices directed at you and being like exposed, like you're gonna have a really, really difficult time
Mm-hmm.
um in that space.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
and we don't chat about that at all.
No, absolutely.
I think most people think like, oh well, I get to make a decision then if I'm a air quotes leader.
Mm.
um I want to
I
go
get to
back to
strategize.
that's
I
right,
get to,
right.
and that's a very American like mindset. To like, I
Yeah.
get to be I get to be a leader. I get to have the ideas. I get to, you know, be the flashy. And for a long time, I actually hid behind Bridget, because I
Mm,
don't. That is how much I don't like being that person.
right.
It makes me very uncomfortable to be the face of things, to be in front of everything.
Mm,
I like making the space and showing up in it.
yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't like being this
Yeah. Right.
at all.
Keynote? Yeah, yeah.
No.
Should we just keep diving in? Should we just tell everybody that this is live? No, it's not live. you know. Um yeah,
Pandemic was great for
I
me because I could hide in my house.
right.
Ooh.
And I can relate to this a lot. Um there was always this difficult challenge that I had in growing up into my early adulthood, which was this balance of like wanting to be part of decisions and being heard and being validated, but never wanting like that exposure. Um, Oddly enough, you know that I was a professional actor for a few years, and I did a couple things like that showed up on TV commercials, and but I was on an MTV video that was for like the number one song and stuff like this. But I was buying cat food at the grocery store, buying like cat litter and cat food, and I have my arms full, and this stranger goes, "You're the person in the thing," and I was immediately like, "Oh my gosh, what's happening? What is going
Mm-hmm.
on? Can I just like I really liked doing the work. What's this part? I didn't anticipate this
Mm-hmm.
part at all. I am not prepared for this part." And then the person followed me to like the checkout and started telling everybody at the checkout that this is the person that's in this video. And I was like, oh my gosh, couldn't I have been buying something like cool, you know, not cat litter? And I'm, I'm getting the sense then that that is a familiar feeling for you, but you've put yourself into a place now that that exposure kind of comes with it. How are you managing that or managing yourself
I
now
don't
that
sleep
people
much.
kind of know you? No.
No, no, not that I slept
Mm,
much before, but if I think about it too much, it still bothers me.
yeah.
They say that with and I guess with anything, the more you do it, the more used to it you get. Um, and part of me wants to think that um, some of that should not be me caring less about
Mm,
how people feel and what people think. and more about me accepting my own feelings about it.
Yeah.
Not DBT per se, but more like acceptance, commitment therapy type. You know what I'm talking about.
I
That kind
do.
of thing
Yeah.
would just be like, just like, yep, and this is it.
Yeah.
And just and sit with it and be like, oh, well, this is how I'm supposed to feel about this because this is me
Yeah.
and that's who I am. So
Yeah. Yeah.
we'll get
And
there.
getting through those things and acknowledging that those things are
Part
real
of
and they're valid
part of being
and
human as me.
yeah, yeah, totally, totally. Well, I'm very glad one that you are exposed because I simply would not. I don't know that I would have met you otherwise. Um, Oddly enough, we both belong to this sort of weird hodgepodge of people that get together every 2 weeks. And I think the majority of us are all sort of that similar, in ways, background of not wanting to be keynote talks. Well, maybe there's one or two people that want that. Um, but the idea of being having balance and doing self work
Mm-hmm.
in order to um, maintain our ability to kind of do the things that we enjoy doing, that we're good at, all this type of stuff. It requires a lot of self work of knowing where we begin and end.
There we go.
First, right? Yeah, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
What can I control? What can I not control? Where do I
yeah.
begin
Right.
and end?
Yeah.
Who is it anywhere?
Mm.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so let's shift a bit because we could talk about therapy and mental health. That was one of the topics.
We could talk
Uh,
about weird mental health
yeah,
boot camps in Texas.
that's right. So that was one of the things that you had mentioned early on, that you got sent to a boot camp. Um, I'm gonna guess not voluntarily.
Nope. So when I
At
was
what age?
uh I am pretty sure I was 16 and not 17 yet.
Hmm.
It was so there was I actually sent it to you
Right.
and it was like, don't, if this is something that mm, there's an article in the New York Times recently because I thought a lot of them had been outlawed. But I guess a
Yeah.
lot of them have turned into mental health hospitals.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
and when I was younger, at least in Texas and in the West, a lot of them were boot camps, wilderness camps, camps. You were outside.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I was skipping school. I was smoking a lot of pot, among
Hmm.
other
Wearing jean
things.
jackets.
Oh,
Uh,
jean jackets was no. I was
no.
considerably more punk rock than that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Black. Wearing lots of black.
yeah, and docks and plaid and safety pins and
Nice.
piercings and went to the first Lollapalooza. Took the brown acid. Walked around with a big umbrella.
Oh,
Um,
that's right.
oh
You're
yeah,
famous from
oh
that.
yeah. Dallas
Right.
went to that first Lollapalooza. The chick walking around with the big
Yeah.
avocado beach umbrella. That was me.
In the
Um,
10-hole docks and yeah,
oh
yeah.
god, yeah, that person.
Hmm.
Um, and had ended up in the hospital, taking too many
Mm-hmm.
pills once or twice,
Hmm.
and my parents were kind of at their wits' end. And I know that they meant well. And like one of the girls in the article, that was kind of her space. For a lot of it, it was mental health issues.
Hmm.
Um, and then obviously I had some behavior issues. Not going to deny that.
Mm-hmm.
But, they when they intake you, this one was very religious based as well, like a lot of them
Hmm.
are, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
least in Texas, or the South. Um, it was nice-ish buildings, rooms. They went through your stuff and they showed your parents where you were staying. You were bunked up with somebody else, et cetera, et cetera. As soon as your parents left, it changed completely. That's not where you were staying.
Mm.
Um, we were in army tents. Uh, it's Texas, and not the weather is not great. It is
No.
hot, cold, raining. There was a lot of standing. Nobody ever beat me up. It was just, there was a lot, endless days of standing for
Mm.
12, 14 hours because, and this is what got me in the article, and this is why I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
They wanted the girl to write an apology to her parents, and she was there for mental health issues, so she didn't really have anything to apologize for.
Yeah.
It was the forced apology letters.
Mm.
I had to stand without moving for days because I wouldn't write those,
Mm.
because I wouldn't write a letter. And the
Mm.
kids, the other kids, a lot of whom were there because of, so in Texas, it's the um, juvenile offenders,
Mm.
the low-level juvenile offenders get sent to those a lot. So some of the kids were not there because their parents sent them there. They were there because the state sent them there. Um, they were sometimes worse than the people.
Mm.
I don't know. That kind of, it changes the way that you think about getting people to like you.
Mm.
Do people like you? Does it matter if people like you? Does it matter if people see me? Sound familiar?
Yeah.
Does it matter if I have a place to be that's safe, that's a community?
Mm.
So when all of that's actually, I dropped out of high school entirely when I was 17. That that whole experience just, ugh.
Yeah.
So I do not have a high school diploma, but I was a college professor.
Yes, because you have a master's degree. You were
And
a professor,
like it's
right?
it's it's important, and it was always so important to me to like tell the undergrads, be like, I don't have a high school diploma, I'm your teacher, you can do anything if you set your mind to it.
Yeah.
um but and I mean, I messed around for a while and looking for my people, like
Yeah.
people who weren't going to think that there was something wrong with me, and weren't going to, you know, punish me for not wanting to do something, and,
Mm.
you know, make me feel like I didn't have to trust that I couldn't trust them. And
Hmm.
I found that in the weird school bus people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like ended up at the Kerrville Folk Festival, the longest running singer-songwriter festival in the United States. Ran the gate there for 11 years, but
Wow.
lived in an RV, rode around a school bus for a while. Um, but found this amazing community of people who just were like incredibly empowering and listened.
Mm.
And most of them were people who were, outcasts,
Yeah.
damaged people.
Yeah.
Um, some of them also pretty educated.
So
And
it's
yeah,
interesting how those two things go hand in hand.
just kind of kept going from there and kept looking and looking for communities. And for better or for worse, it seems
Hmm.
like whenever I find a community, like I show up at the Kerrville Folk Festival and randomly get a volunteer job, which is not easy. The next year, the I'm not the crew leader for tickets, but I'm one of the shift leaders. And the year after that, I'm the
Hmm.
crew leader.
Hmm.
I show up in another group, and the next year, I'm one of the admins of that group. I show up the first day of the research ops community, and within months, I'm running that. It just like I show up and I find people, and then really quickly, I'm like, how do I make this work? How do I keep this going?
You know what I see here is a group of people just taking a moment to see somebody, even in the smallest way, uh, allows somebody to be at their utmost capability. And having somebody stand where I don't see this as you being defiant, but the system being defiant against you, like this giant power struggle, for you to write a letter of how
I'm a
you're all
horrible
broken,
person.
right? You're a
Yeah.
horrible person, and all these types of things, and obviously, understanding the complexity of family systems, of biology and genetics, of how trauma or whatnot gets passed on, and how systems of misogyny and patriarchy and all these types of things are, right? They're all intertwined, and you go, what if somebody were to have just offered you a hug or on the shoulder or just looked you in the eyes and I say, like, I see you? I bet you would have written like a letter, or, like not necessarily that, but to see that and say, like, I have every capability to reflect in a different way than me in my 10 holes. I imagine they didn't let you have your 10 holes while standing there. But that act of um, being that first act of grace, that it then is clear to me why you are where you are today, because you are always going to show up as that first person.
It's absolutely what it is. And it's not me showing up every time and saying, you don't need to have this behavior punished out of you, because honestly, you can't punish that kind of behavior out of people. It A lot of times it's me showing up and saying, you just need support to get through this. And maybe that's a template, maybe that's resources on mental health facilities in your area, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I am somebody, maybe it's I know somebody who has a job in this. Let me reach out to them in my network. I developed this massive network of people so that I could help other people,
Right.
because there really wasn't anybody to do it for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I am this like
And
big
yeah,
behemoth of helping everybody else.
but I think and I think if I'm reading through the lines a little bit, if I'm wrong, please let me know. These are things that you shouldn't have to pay for.
No.
you shouldn't have to go and pay somebody on how to create a job resume or how to create a profile or even be referred to a job. Like, are you kidding? Could you pay? Like, could you offer that? You could, but like, getting down to like the humanity of it all and having a sense of living up to personal values, it's all what's so compelling me for me is you going like, that is not something that I mean, that should just be a basic human thing to do.
You shouldn't have to pay
um
for kindness.
no, or just the idea that I see you and I hear you, um and that simple offer of say, if if I have your consent, may I introduce you?
Yep.
May I give you a resource? May I do this? I have a very good friend of mine, um, that we've only become good friends over the last few years.